Greenland. What is it? Is it a country? Is it a continent? Is it an island? Yes, and also maybe no. I'm here right now. We're gonna learn together today. Hello, my name is Cheyenne Nicole. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're gonna learn about Greenland. Why? So a little bit of backstory. I went to Iceland last May for my 2-year wedding anniversary. As we flew to Iceland, we flew over Greenland. And that made me realize I don't know anything about the country of Greenland at all. It is a mystery to me, somewhat a nerd. In the case of a nerd like me, I decided to do a deep dive and I wrote an entire script wherein I researched Greenland's geography, geology, history, peoples, native flora, fauna, all that fun stuff. And I forgot that I did that. So I let the script sit for like 2 months because I didn't really know how to present it to y'all. So today I have an idea. I'm gonna read the script to y'all. I'm gonna teach you all about the place that is Greenland while I make fun Halloween candles. If you didn't know, I love to craft. I've made candles in the past. If you like content like this and you wanna see more in the future, go ahead, like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below about what you want me to research in the future, what you want to learn. To start, I have a bunch of these used yogurt glasses that I don't think you can actually maybe you can recycle them. Either way, I'm going to be using these as my little candle containers. By the way, I've been sick for like a week now, so I know I'm normally very nasally. Today's just going to be worse. I'm sorry. There's not much I can do about it. Additionally, I've bought a bunch of fun essential oil fragrances for us to use. I don't like to use a lot of artificial or any artificial fragrances. I also try really hard to buy local for my crafting and art supplies. Unfortunately, I could not find any candle wax locally, so I did have to end up ordering online. However, hello? Oh no. If you did not know, I'm from the Midwest sourced candle wax. Soy that was grown in the Midwest. And the reason I use soy wax is because it's safest for pets. And that's what I have. I have pets. All essential oils, all soy wax candles. This has nothing to do with the video, but I made focaccia for the first time and it's very tasty. Just wanted to show you guys. So to get started, Greenland is a massive place. Greenland is covered in a giant ice cap. The only place people can live is around the coast, especially the southern coast. And the population density of Greenland is just 0.03 people per square kilometer, which is crazy to think about. Well, the bedrock surface of Greenland is shaped kind of like a bowl with higher mountainous regions along the coast of Greenland, lower land in the middle. I'm just gonna put that over very low heat and let that start to melt. No, that's probably not the safest way to do it. I don't care. While that starts to melt down, we're going to put the wicks in our candles. These bedrock features make for inconsistency in the thickness of the ice that has covered that bedrock surface. In the middle, it can be up to 3 kilometers deep and around 1 kilometer deep toward the edges. Well, there is historical evidence of Greenland's ice sheet dating all the way back to the Eocene epoch, so like 56 to 33.9 million years ago. Earth's various freezing and thawing cycles have caused this ice cap to have kind of a varying footprint, so larger at some points and smaller at others. So the majority of Greenland's current ice cap was formed during a glacial period about 188,000 to 130,000 years ago, but it solidified during the final Pleistocene advance about 24,000 years ago. So how do we know all this? Glaciers are stratified, or they exhibit stratification, meaning they have stripes, they have layers. These layers form cyclically. Heavy snowfall in the winter that then kind of melts down a little bit in the summer and then refreezes in the winter. So you get like thicker, denser layers that are darker blue. and then some lighter, less dense layers that are lighter in color as well. So of course these layers form chronologically over time. This allows researchers to take core samples. So they take like a big cylinder and stick it into the ground. I don't know how deep, probably assumingly 3 kilometers deep. And they can pull that out and then look at the layers and make guesstimates as far as weather conditions and that sort of thing. So I'm just trying to make sure that the wick is pretty straight up and down. Very ignorantly, I assumed that Greenland was primarily populated by people of Nordic descent, so white people. Because of its geographical location, that is true to a point. But it is important to remember, and I'll get to this in a little bit, that the native people native to Greenland are an Inuit culture. There is archaeological radiocarbon dating of settlements in northern Greenland, which show evidence of migration of North American Inuit peoples to the region of Greenland beginning around 2600 to 2500 BCE. In fact, from about 2600 BCE to about 1100 CE, so a span of about 3,700 years, there were at least 5 waves of different groups of Inuit settlers to Greenland. And these different groups made their way to Greenland via the North Canadian islands up in that region. Each of these groups had their own unique customs and cultures. And today, Greenland's population, which is about 56 to 57,000, is still made up primarily of people of Inuit descent. Greenland's official language, Greenlandic, is actually derived from North American Eskimo Aleut language. So going back to how did the Vikings make their way to Greenland? How did Greenland get its name? Why does this all feel so prolific? When we talk about this, we have to talk about Erik Thorvaldsen. Erik Thorvaldsen was born in Norway, but he moved to Iceland with his father when he was about 10 years old, when his father was exiled from Norway for murdering someone, so makes sense. Erik Thorvaldsen was also known as Erik the Red, probably because of his ginger hair, but also for murderous tendencies, so you know, like father, like son. By 982 CE, Erik got kicked out of Iceland for murdering some of his neighbors over a land dispute. Really living up to that name. Wicks are in, wax is still melting. We're gonna go play with that a little bit. So after being exiled from Iceland, Erik sailed west in 983 CE and hit land. And when he hit that land, he named it Greenland. It was a bit of an exaggeration, but the fjord essentially that he sailed into, I believe it was springtime or summer. So of course the fjord closest to the ocean was going to be green or greener than the rest of the inland portion of Greenland. So that's why he called it Greenland. And also he was kind of bragging about his discovery, right? He wanted to make it sound better than it actually was and to get more people to come like explore with him. Eventually, Erik did convince others to join him, and by 1200 CE, there were actually 2 main European settlements in Greenland, and Christianity had made its way to Greenland via Norway. But then, tragedy strikes. Just kidding, not tragedy. However, have you guys ever heard of the Little Ice Age? From about 1300 to 1850 CE, Earth's climate experienced significant cooling. So this contributed to a lot of struggles with crops, which trickled down into social and political struggles as well, which makes sense. If your crops aren't growing, people are starving, you're not making money, that kind of throws society into a spiral. This Little Ice Age is believed to be blamed for the eventual abandonment of these European settlements in Greenland from the 14th to 15th century. Once that's completely melted, I'm gonna take it off the heat. Actually, I might take it off the heat now, let the carryover kind of finish the job, and I'm going to add my fragrance. So luckily, once the Vikings left, the native people got a little break from settlers for a while until about 1721. And in 1721, the Danish arrived and created a settlement near present-day Nuuk with a trading company and a Lutheran church. In 1776, Denmark actually declared themselves Greenland's only trade partner and had the coastline completely shut off for trade with anyone else. Coastline was completely closed. This closure lasted until 1950, and the exclusive trade partnership was overturned 1 year later. During World War II, the United States actually took over protections of Greenland from Denmark. This was because of Greenland's advantageous position between North America and Europe. So the US established an air base in Thule. So the people of Greenland started to become more and more disgruntled with the changing of hands and being governed by outside bodies. Unfortunately, Greenland was not granted home rule by Denmark until 1979. So today, Greenland does remain a territory of the Kingdom of Denmark, and Denmark is still their largest trade partner. Switching topics here a little bit, about 24,000 years ago, during that final glacial push, Greenland's ice cap covered about 40% more area than it does today. Depletion of Greenland's ice cap has been well documented since the 90s, but it looks like the process has accelerated in recent decades due to increased average global temperatures, precipitation, solar radiation, all those fun things. All these things together are a compounding effect. The more ice that melts, the more ice that's exposed, that can melt more to run off into the ocean or calve off into the ocean as icebergs. Since the turn of the century, the water that has melted off of Greenland's ice cap has caused a 0.4 inch rise in global sea levels. Greenland's ice cap contains about 12% of the world's water. So if that were to melt completely, we would have a 24-foot overall rise in global sea levels. So say bye-bye to Florida. Generally, melting ice caps are obviously a bad thing, right? However, the more ice that melts in Greenland, the more bedrock is exposed, and that allows for the harvesting of natural resources that weren't previously available. So things such as oil, gas, and rare earth metals. And those have proven advantageous to people who live in Greenland because it allows them to be more independent and raise their GDP. Access to these resources obviously increases Greenland's independence and economy and trade opportunities, but it also puts them at risk for exploitation by other countries. Moving to a less serious topic, I was curious what kind of cryptids were local to Greenland, because when I learn about a new place, of course the first thing I always want to learn is like what are their weird ghost stories or folk tales or what have you. Greenland is a really unique place, right? Like during the summer they have 24 hours of light, northern lights. Most of the land mass is covered in ice and it's unexplored. It gives way to some interesting stories. First thing I stumbled upon was the Kivatok, which is a native folk tale. The Kivatok, or mountain walkers, are people who have been cast out of their communities for crimes or other acts, and have been forced to go live out in the wilderness on their own. And because of this prolonged period of solitude, start to morph and transform. Some people say into like wayward spirits, others say more animal, voracious beings. The Kivatok can range anywhere from a helpful spirit to like a dangerous being that lures people out into the wilderness to their death. It's still a folktale that is told by natives in Greenland. Next we have Satsuma Arna. Satsuma Arna is known as the mother of the sea or the goddess of the sea, and she is charged with protecting everything that lives in the ocean, all the sea creatures. Her story is more of a cautionary tale, and I believe it might be geared more towards children to try to get kids to behave. If you misbehave, her hair gets tangled. She has really long black hair, so she doesn't like when you misbehave and it gets all tangled up. So when her hair gets all tangled, it ensnares all of the sea creatures, so the animals that normally would be harvested for food. So that's obviously very bad for local communities because they rely primarily on the sea for fishing and for food. And the story goes that the only way to untangle her hair is if a local shaman goes down to meet her and appease her by brushing her hair. Finally, we're at my favorite part, which is the animals. So I researched local flora and fauna. In Greenland, we have a lot of the big charismatic species, the big heavy hitters. So polar bears, seals, whales, reindeer. But one of the more unique animals, they're one of the animals that I find really cute, is the rock ptarmigan. So these are polar birds, so they can be found in Alaska and Canada as well. But these are online they're known as the Weibo birds, with the big red eyebrows, and they go Weibo. Those guys. So these guys, I think they're kind of known for being aggressive toward like alpine skiers, which I think is really funny. They are so incredibly adapted to surviving in their environment. The first and probably most notable is their feet, which are really big and just covered in feathers. So that is for insulation, to keep them warm, as well as they kind of act like built-in snowshoes. It allows them to walk across the top of the snow with ease. And these feathers grow primarily in the winter months. Ptarmigans also have an elongated cecum, which is a digestive organ. That organ allows for fermentation of low nutrient foods. And you can understand why that's advantageous in cold climates, because a lot of nutrient-rich foods aren't readily available, especially in the deep of winter. Very similar to ruminants like cows, it allows them to more fully and deeply digest the foods that they do get to extract as many nutrients as possible. On top of all this, these guys can also store enough body fat in the winter to survive up to 10 days without food. You may think that Greenland's ice cap is completely lifeless, which for the most part it is. There are actually things called ice worms, which are cousins to earthworms that live in the ice itself. They're teeny tiny, about 1 to 3 centimeters long. They are annelids and they are opportunists. So they consume algae, bacteria, and like little pollen granules that can be found in the ice cap. Scientists have discovered they can survive in these frigid climates by increasing ATP production, which indicates that they ramp up their metabolism to keep their systems working even in sub-zero temperatures. But the craziest and coolest part about these guys is they produce antifreeze-like proteins, which prevent their cells from freezing. And on top of that, or I guess because of that, their bodies are so well adapted or used to living in freezing climates that if they are brought into, say, 70-degree room temperature in a lab, they essentially melt. So I couldn't find any studies on the population density of Greenland's ice worms specifically. There was a study in 2002 of the Suiattle Glacier in Washington State, and in just that glacier specifically, there was an estimated 7 billion individuals. The last animal I wanted to touch on was the Greenland shark. The Greenland shark is the namesake animal. It's estimated that these sharks can live up to 400 years. And that's due to a few factors. So these guys grow extremely slowly, like as little as 1 centimeter a year. And they're found primarily around Greenland in the coastal waters at very deep depths. But some have been observed as far south as the Caribbean. So they have all this time to grow. Some individuals have been found that are up to 24 feet long, which is crazy. This species doesn't even have any true hard parts like other cartilaginous sharks. So typical means of aging these guys isn't really possible, like counting the growth bands on cartilaginous vertebrae. But luckily, scientists have identified proteins in the shark's eyes that form in ovo, so even before the sharks hatch. And they can radiocarbon date these proteins to get a little bit more closer age on the individuals, but it's still not an exact number. They did this radiocarbon dating on quite a few bycatch specimens, and they got an age range from about 272 to 500 years old, which is a large age range, but still on the low end. Like 272 years is a long life for a sea creature, or for anything really. These guys aren't as well studied as many other shark species because they live at such deep depths. I've seen up to 2,200 meters, and that's just to scavenge for food. And you would think at these depths, these guys would be lonely, but fortunately, most Greenland sharks have a fun little built-in best friend, which is a parasite that hangs out on their eyeballs. So these are parasitic copepods or crustaceans, and these copepods spend their entire lives attached to the cornea of Greenland sharks, and it's just one per eye. And the sharks don't seem to mind really because they don't really use their eyes anyway. Not at the, I mean, it's so dark at the depths where they hunt, they don't really have any use for them. All right, so candles are done. That's all the information I have on Greenland. Like I said, I spent a while researching and compositing this information, and I was just really excited to share it with y'all. So I figured this would be a fun way to do it. Thank you so much for sticking around, for watching. If you like this kind of content, please like the video. Like I said in the beginning, comment below if you want to see more of this, give me more topics to research and to present to y'all. And remember to hit that subscribe button down below. I try to get videos out every week. The day of the week varies depending on how much time I have, but I try to stay consistent for y'all. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.